Hey folks, my name's Ed Trevors. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm an Anglican priest serving in the beautiful parish of Christchurch-shelburne that sits on the ancestral and on the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Today we're going to continue talking about the wilderness. In particular, we're going to talk about discipline. Discipline is a wonderful personal characteristic, and it is something that I am always trying to work on. My discipline at times is horrible. Especially when it comes to getting out of bed at any point for any reason. My discipline is solely lacking. The alarm clock can go off. I will hit snooze 655 times until my wife takes the sledgehammer to the alarm clock. I have almost no discipline when it comes to waking up, but I would love to. I often have trouble with discipline when it comes to focusing on my work. I find my brain easily taken away by other thoughts and shiny objects. Building that discipline for myself in those ways helps me to improve, helps me to grow, helps me to become, I believe, the person that I'm being asked to become. The wilderness provides us a wonderful opportunity to develop discipline. It offers us a wonderful opportunity to practice our discipline. It requires us an opportunity to challenge and to test the limits of our discipline. Now, the first thing that has to be said before we can talk about discipline is we have to understand that a wilderness experience, in the context that I'm talking about, where it's something that we enter into and that it helps us grow and develop, it helps build us in some ways. These must be chosen experiences. A person who is thrust into a wilderness experience when they don't want to be there, that's not going to be an opportunity for growth unless they choose to see it as an opportunity for growth. If they don't choose to see it as that opportunity and they are thrust into it without the desire to be there, that's just suffering. And suffering for no reason is debilitating. It's damaging. It can easily be traumatic. So we must understand that these wilderness experiences that I'm talking about are chosen experiences. We've chosen to either enter into it, or those times where it's come upon us, we've chosen to embrace it as a growth experience. Now, yesterday I think it was, I talked about scarcity. And I talked about how being in the wilderness is an opportunity to experience scarcity, because no matter what, you can't bring all of the comforts of home out into the woods, out into the desert, out onto the ocean. It's not possible. It's not feasible. You have to go without many of the luxuries, many of the comforts we get used to. And while being away from those comforts makes it a lot easier to say no to them, right? If I don't have a television in front of me, there's no reason for me to say no to it. There's no challenge. It's just not there. The discipline comes from actually staying in the moment. If we can discipline ourselves to stay in the moment, then the longer we can stay in the moment, the greater the practice of discipline is, the more it's developed within us. The more likely we are to be able to say no to those comforts and those luxury items once we return from the wilderness. The longer we can stay out there, the more discipline we can practice, the more changed we are when we come back. The longer we stay out there, the more disciplined we become, the stronger we become, the more focused we become, the more appreciative we become, the more disciplined we become by staying in the wilderness, by extending our absence, by embracing over a longer period of time the scarcity of that place, of those moments, of those experiences. The greater our ability to persevere, the greater our ability to resist the temptations of our life that want to take us off track, the greater our ability to endure and ultimately the greater our character becomes. The greater our character becomes, the stronger our integrity becomes. And as these things develop, so too does the sense of hope that resides in us. Hope not only that something grand is coming, but rather hope from the perspective of, I know I can make my way through this. I know with God's help I can do what needs to be done. I know with God's help I can be the person I'm meant to be in this moment. I know with God's help I can stand in this moment and I can be strong. I can be a person who benefits others. I can be the one that is needed by others. I can be the champion that others need. I can be the leader that people need. I can move in the directions, those uncomfortable directions that we are called to move. The wilderness, a time of scarcity, a chosen time of scarcity, a time where we let go in order to embrace all that God has to offer, where our minds are cleared of the daily distractions, of the daily shining objects that are all around us, so that we can better appreciate how the Spirit is moving and how the Spirit is moving within us and around us and about us. But it requires us to stay. And it requires us to stay a little bit longer each time to develop that sense of discipline so that we can take the fullness of this gift that is being offered to us. Because this gift that is offered to us in that wilderness moment, in that time of growth that we've chosen to enter into when we come out, it'll serve us. It'll serve us well. It'll serve our community well. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord's face be made to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord's countenance be lifted up to you, and may you always know the peace of being in the Lord's presence. And I pray that as we enter into those wilderness experiences, that we will endeavor to push ourselves just a little bit further, to test and to develop and to practice our discipline, to grow our character, to strengthen our hope. Amen.